Muse Music Store and Mahaska County Conservation Board presents Eveland Access Summerfest Music by the River 2024. June 1st from noon to 10 p.m. featuring 8 musical artists with live music, activities like bingo, sand volleyball, and cornhole, food, and much, much more. It's a free event at the Eveland Access Campgrounds at 2890 Galveston Avenue, Oskaloosa. Bring a friend and have a lot of fun at the Eveland Access Summerfest 2024 Music by the River, June 1st from noon to 10 at the Eveland Access Campgrounds.
Welcome to this edition of Morgan You Asked For podcast. Trevor is back tonight, and we will grade the NFL draft, talk about some of the highlights and draft picks that surprised and great picks late in the draft. And just kind of get Trev's take on the draft. This is kind of his baby, but unfortunately, the last couple of weeks hasn't really worked out to talk on the podcast, and that's life. We've talked about that, where this isn't our main thing, and we've got life that happens. And but we welcome him back this week, and we'll kind of just turn it over to Trev and let Trev kind of guide tonight with being the NFL draft.
We've been with work. Traveling with customers, was at a Talladega race, which was fun. But anyway, back to the draft. So let's just get right into it. The most surprising pick of the draft night was Michael Penix. I don't think you watched because I think you were at a Zach Bryan concert.
Yep.
But obviously you probably saw all the headlines since then. Really, it's one of the most shocking picks I can remember in draft history. There's been some other things that have happened. But just because it's shocking or surprising doesn't mean it's a bad pick. And we'll get into that. I've listened to a ton of people talk about it. Just kind of wanted to get what your thoughts were, or if you even really had any about it.
Well, there's two surprising things about it. One, they just paid $100 million to Kirk Cousins for 4 years. So you're pretty much committed to him for 4 years. So if you want Penix to sit, which is not a horrible idea. I really don't think it's that. But he's already 24 years old. He's not young. So that's a strike against it. And then the other thing is, I don't think you had to pick him at 8. If you wanted him, you should have traded back to 15. And I think you still maybe would have got him. Because I think if he doesn't get picked, it does change the rest of the draft. Now, as a Bears fan, I love that pick because it gave us the receiver that we wanted at 9. Because I think there was a good chance we might have traded back if they would have picked our receiver that we wanted. But then all of a sudden he falls to us, so we pick him in a heartbeat. And so it helped the Bears. But I think they could have got him and some draft picks if they would have played their cards right. That's my big pick. Now, he may end up being fine and being good and then picked in the 8th spot. Doesn't really matter. But I think they could have got some value for that pick and still got him if that's who they really wanted.
Avenues to go down with this pick. Trading back, paying Cousins. First of all, let's just start with, and I text you this too, get this out of the way. You and I have talked about this for a couple of years now, maybe some first-time listeners. Draft grades that Mel Kiper or any of the websites give, don't pay any attention to those. They're fun, but they're silly. They don't matter. We don't know anything about these players until they get on the field. So I got my favorite drafts, so does everybody else, but it means absolutely nothing until the guys play football on the NFL field. And that's part of the discussion.
Right. You should grade the draft in 3 years or 4 years. That's when you know if it was a good draft or not. You won't know it this year.
No, I mean, you might have a couple players that stand out right away, and that's great if that happens. That means you've done pretty good probably as a team. But the grades, yeah, you won't know for 2, 3, 4 years. So the grades are fun. Read them. But when I read the grades, I don't pay any attention to the letter grade that you get. All I'm trying to do is find out more information about the player, about the team, something I didn't know, just to educate myself. So the grades are fun, but they're silly. When it comes to this Penix pick, it's very surprising. My opinion, though, it doesn't mean it's a bad pick. If Penix becomes a top 12 quarterback, in 2 or 3 years, it's a great draft pick. Now, if you want to argue that the Cousins signing was a bad signing, I can get on board with that. And what I think what happened is they had such bad quarterback play during the year. They went into the offseason and said, let's go get Kirk Cousins. That way we for sure have a solid quarterback, which he is. I don't love him, but he's solid. I think we all agree on that. And then during the draft process, usually the coaches come in after the season and they must have fell in love with Penix, I think is what happened. So they got married to Kirk Cousins, right, and then they fell in love with Penix shortly after, type of deal. Right. They probably didn't plan on that happening. That's the way it worked. That's the only way I can figure out how this happened. Doesn't mean it's right or wrong. It's just that's my explanation on it.
Is there a chance that Cousins is behind schedule? And so they think they need someone now to play a few games, not be a full-time starter, but he might have to start. And then in just reality, most teams need 2 quarterbacks. You just have to, and you have to have a backup that is capable. And even if Kirk Cousins isn't healthy enough to play, he is another assistant coach / he will help Penix a lot. He will teach, but I look at him so much like Alex Smith for Mahomes, where he's very serviceable. He'll get you to the playoffs. Probably not going to win a title with him, but Michael Penix Jr. is going to learn how to be an NFL guy behind Kirk Cousins. And then the other thing is just maybe Kirk Cousins isn't ready to go yet and they need someone now. And as you stated, they had such bad quarterback play last year. They got scared and they didn't know what else to do but to get quarterbacks.
A lot from Kirk Cousins. I think Kirk Cousins will be a good soldier through most of it. Digging into his contract a little bit, it's really a 2-year front-loaded contract. Most people are saying $100 million. I've read it's really 90, but between 90 and $100 million, let's call it, whatever. If Kirk plays this year and Michael Penix plays a game or two, sort of like Mahomes did his rookie season, and then they move off Kirk Cousins, yes, it's going to be a big dead cap hit, but we have to remember the cap's going up every year. And also in 2026, the June 1st cutoff, if they cut Kirk Cousins 2 years from now, essentially, it's only a $12.5 million dead cap hit. That'll feel like $7 or $8 million 2 years from now with the cap going up. So yes, $100 million. $100 million is still a lot. It is, but for 2 years, I don't think it's as bad as everyone's making out to be.
And you can eat that $12 billion or even $20 million because you're going to be paying Penix very little because he's still on his rookie deal. So you can just kind of assume you're paying a quarterback a little bit more money and get used to that money being in the quarterback slot. Where, just like where the 49ers doing the Purdy, if they got to pay someone else an extra $15 million right now, it's okay. Or if they have to take a cap hit because they're paying so little for Brock, and in 3 years they're going to be paying so little for Penix, that they'll be okay.
I mean, the number 8 overall pick still's making a lot of money,
right?
But relative
it's
to what
not Brock
Cousins,
Purdy, but it's still less.
It sort of evens itself out a little bit. Yeah, you're correct on that. So, was it a surprising pick? Yeah, one of the most surprising picks I've ever seen. Which I love the draft, and I was happy. Like, it was chaos. To me, it was fun. But does it mean it's a bad pick? No, because we don't know about any of these players until they play football in the NFL. Right. So people can sit here and say Penix was a terrible pick. You don't know until they play.
And I'll be honest, Trev, I didn't read. Maybe you're going to talk about this, but by them choosing Penix, did that cause Bo Nix to get picked that early, or did the Broncos fall in love with him, or did they panic too?
Well, I kind of text you a little bit about that. So 6 quarterbacks go in the top 12. We've never seen that. And here's what I think is going to happen. This year might be an outlier, but I think a lot of years moving forward is, let's pretend you and you're the coach of the Broncos and I'm the GM. And we move off Russell Wilson after this past year. We decide, hey, it's just let's rip the Band-Aid off. He's not good enough. We'll take the cap hit. Here's what I think what coaches and GMs know nowadays. If you have a, let's call it Dak Prescott or Kirk Cousins level quarterback, or worse than that, you're on the hot seat already.
Oh, yeah.
Like those guys are good enough to win games. But if you're at, call it Derek Carr, who I think is about the 18 to 20th best quarterback in the league, give or take, you're probably going to get fired. So I think what coaches are doing now, and this is not to try to dumb it down because there's more to it than this, but pretending again that you and I are the coach and the GM, we could just say, hey, we're going to cut bait with Russ and let's just take a flyer on a quarterback. We're going to get fired either way if we don't hit on a quarterback. So let's shoot for the moon and hope to hit gold.
Well, and I think that's why the Bears had to take Caleb Williams. They did not have a choice, because if you don't take him, I mean, in almost every scenario, your GM and coach is going to get fired. If you don't take him and he turns out to be a stud, you're fired, because now your guy's probably not a stud, whether you trade back or whatever. And then, if you draft him and he's a bust, you get fired. You draft him and he's good as your only chance. But again, it's a crapshoot. But 2 out of the 3 ways that you don't pick him, you get fired. And if you don't draft him, you're probably getting fired anyway, because your guy's probably not going to hit. And then Caleb Williams, is a stud, then you're out because you're a moron. I mean, you're 100% right. They just feel like quarterback is just so important in this league where everybody's looking for that quarterback. And until you hit one, you got 2 or 3 years and you're fired anyway.
Yep. And a lot of people say, Sean Payton's got a big deal. The Walton family doesn't care. They'll get rid of him in a 3-year period.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
You
cannot go into a season. You can't go into a season with Jared Stidham and Zach Wilson and think I'm going to be okay. You're going to be on the hot seat or be fired. So why not take Bo Nix at 12? And again, there's more that goes into that. They didn't just guess, like they didn't do their homework. But I think at the end of the day, if you're on the fence about a quarterback, you just take him and you hope for the best, because you're going to get fired regardless if you don't have one.
Well, and then just right or wrong, I think Brock Purdy is proving that you don't have to be the number one guy to be successful either. So, I mean, these guys are all first round picks. They're all going to get paid a lot of money, but you can get, 5 years ago, Bo Nix is a 5th or 6th round draft pick. You think of, Russell Wilson, what was he, a 3rd round? Dak Prescott, 3rd round. Those 2 guys are way more hyped than Bo Nix, I think, coming out of college, or more NFL ready. But I think you are 100% right. People get scared, and it's all about the quarterback, and you're just trying to find one, because if you don't, you're getting fired anyway, so you might as well give it a shot.
Great defense, like the Jets had this past year.
Right.
And you're picking whatever they were picking, 10 or 11, I think 10 until they traded. So, yeah, you have to have a quarterback nowadays. And it was a combination. This was a really good quarterback draft. That's the reason 6 went in the 1st round. But you add in on top of that the pressure of needing to find one, I think, is another reason why 6 went in the top 12.
And then you can see where just the NFL is going in general, where it's all offensive players. And, with Cade, or with Cooper DeJean not going to the 2nd round, that was simply because all these quarterbacks went early and all the receivers went, and it was just all offense. And there just becomes more and more rules that it's all about the offense. They really are just hamstringing the defense in every turn. So defensive players are still super valuable, but maybe just not as valuable as they've been.
This was a really strong offensive class. You and I talked about this: quarterback, receiver, tackles, and then interior defensive lineman really is where I was looking. But yeah, it's a combination like most things. The first 15 first 14 picks were offense. So
Right.
That we've never seen that before. 6 quarterbacks. I don't think we'll see that next year. It'll probably get back to the norm a little bit. But with the rule changes and all the things that you said, we're going to see more offensive players. And there was a lot of drama in the draft too, I thought, outside the top 4.
Right.
The top 4 were kind of chalk, but there weren't a lot of secrets or things that got out. I was having a lot of debates with Charger fans online. A lot of Charger fans thought they were going to take a receiver at 5, and I thought, no way. There's no way Harbaugh's taking a wide out at 5.
I agree.
Now, I thought if he traded back a few spots or into the teens, then maybe, but not at 5. You take a big human being there because they already have the quarterback, as we know.
Right. Yep. They didn't need a quarterback, so when Harbaugh got that job, you knew what they were taking. I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
either O-line or D-line.
Yep. They were doing a lineman.
Yep. Absolutely. And you and I did this a while back. I don't know, 3, 4, 5 months ago. And I told you I saw a lot of mock drafts that had 3 receivers in the top 7. I said, there's no way that's happening. Well, 3 did go in the top 9, but I was right. 3 did not go in the top 7. So I got a little victory lap out of that one.
Right.